and kind of on Indianapolis. So it's a real pleasure and honor to be part of such a marquee project in my hometown, and for this everything that this is bringing to the community. This has been great. So I'm going to just spend a few minutes, have like a dozen slides to show you what we're working on today. Before I do that, I want to just mention a couple of our teammates on the CM Build team. So, and here with us today, Howard & Sons, one of our associate partners, is Maymon, Les, and Tony. So thank you all for coming and supporting the event today. Mary Zerbach Development is not here. She's actually down at the job site working with some guys right now on an issue. So thanks, Mary, to that. And then we have Robert Lane, Veteran Strategies, for all things Project PR. And then, of course, Barbara. And Haley, the blue shirt, keeping Barbara in line, which is, you all know is a Herculean task. So, with that, I want to thank the City of Indianapolis, the CIB, OMWPD, and Kite Development for the opportunity to build this project for you all. So with that, I will run through a few little slides. You've all seen the glamour shots of the building, right? On that screen, on the static board here, all the renderings have been out there forever. So here's where we are today, right? So it was a plaza. We spent all winter doing tiebacks, which is, so that white wall behind the excavator, that's the existing parking garage wall that we're going to leave in place and reinforce and build on top of it. So those black dots on the wall are 3 rows of tiebacks drilled back under the streets on all 4 sides of the building. And those had to be done so we could disassemble the parking garage and those walls would cave in and bring the streets with it. So the tiebacks are done. And because we've been venting about those tiebacks for 3 or 4 months. That's probably just made his day. So the tiebacks are done, Andy. And that lets the demolition, which has been kind of creeping along, we've been kind of pacing the tiebacks. You can't hit the tieback, demo hit the tiebacks. The tiebacks are done. We've got 4 of those excavators in there marching through the plaza right now. So there's one shot from southwest corner of the site looking across Canyon, across the plaza. Next. Just another shot that shows the old 3 stories of the garage as we work our way north to get to the north ice rink and west ice rink, which then later in the month we'll attack those and start bringing them down into the hole as well. And so, people driving by all winter, work was below grade because the scene that was being done. But now it's a visible site, so it kind of got a lot of interest. That's kind of the tieback rig. You can't really see too much there. That silver piece of equipment laying on the ground, that's angling, drilling tiebacks under Illinois Street in that particular example. And that's the system that puts that wall reinforcement in. And I'm a huge history buff, and Indianapolis has such a history of past development, and especially on this site. So doing this is kind of interesting with maybe somebody. We would hit things. I wonder what that is. It's not on any map. So we go to the Indiana Historical Society photo archives. Hey, streetcars used to go under Union Station. There's a tunnel. We're hitting the tunnel off an old streetcar tunnel. And that sort of stuff is just fascinating to find. Illinois was a dirt road, and there was a 5-story boarding house called the Spencer House on our job site. So, it's in Capitol Avenue was called Tennessee Street. So all these really cool, just past use of the site has come to light through just the process. So that's kind of fun to be part of and learn and understand. All right, next. Okay, this is a dewatering drill rig. So around the perimeter of the job site, we put 19 90-foot deep, 12-inch diameter wells that have 20 horsepower pumps on them to draw down the water table, because the current water table, static in the ground, is about 30 feet below Capitol Avenue. Our foundation excavator goes 50 feet below Capitol Avenue. So, although we're not going to be digging footings until May, we're putting these in now so we can turn them on in about a month and be drawing the water down. So when it's time to dig, the water's below our deep point in the excavation, and we don't have to fight slush and mud and do concrete below water. So that's, you may, as you go around, you see this rig for a couple more weeks there. So that's how the sausage is made, right? So that's the back house stuff. So a couple milestones. We talked about all the readiness and the demolition, but where this is all headed, right? Do this so I can stay at the microphone and not get in front of the light. So we start foundations on 5-6. That's our critical path milestone. We have to start that 50-foot deep foundation I just mentioned. That starts on 5-6. Below that, we get back up to street level in January of 25. After that, the summer of 25, it's no longer home to ground. And the podium is topped out. So the convention center expansion by the summer of 25 is it's 5 stories tall, it's taken shape, and starting to be enclosed. After that, we top out the structure by Thanksgiving of 25. So then it is a 38-story building being enclosed. Building's topped out, the enclosure's about 3/4 of the way up by Thanksgiving of 25. And then there's a couple milestones that we've worked with CIB to develop, and they're called readiness, hotel readiness 1 and 2. Readiness 1 is when half of the building, half of the guest rooms of the 800-room tower are ready for furniture. That happens to be on the 19th floor. That's where our 400th guest room is. So when the building is on level 19, we say, Andy, we start shipping headboards. Start outfitting, because if they wait till we're done before they start outfitting, the hotel won't open for 3 to 6 months after we hand you the keys. So readiness 1, let's CIB start to outfit half the guest rooms. Hotel readiness 2 is you can have all the guest rooms. Now we're finishing kitchens, ballrooms, all the podium, convention center infrastructure, and site. So those are some really critical milestones to opening a hotel very quickly after we reach substantial completion. And then, of course, substantial completion on 10/22 of 26 is our current trajectory and contractual obligations you guys give you this new building. So those are kind of the high level, important stuff in our 80-page construction schedule. All that looks like this when we put it together. So there's that gigantic foundation. That foundation, by the way, there's about 9,000 cubic yards of concrete. And we're targeting the first half of June to do that big foundation. And that makes it the single largest concrete foundation ever done in Indiana. So we've got a huge marketing opportunity here to build excitement and bragging rights on this project. Yeah, and so Robert Bain, his big charge is make sure that the world knows about this bragging right when it's going to happen. There's 1,050 concrete trucks will serve that placing operation that day. And it will probably start like on a Friday, 10 p.m. and go until sometime on Sunday we're finished. So that's kind of the plan for that. And the foundation's below grade nobody will ever see. It's almost one of the coolest things that ever happened in Indianapolis. Oh yeah, definitely. Drones and time lapse. Yeah. We got it all. So anyway, our little tool here to just keeping people informed. There's a calendar sliding across the top. So here you can see in early 26, this closed. The exterior elevator's off the building. We're closing in the last strip of the curtain wall, and from there on, it's just finishing up inside. So that's kind of the build sequence and the program. Then on the top, this is kind of interesting too. So this has always been called a 40-story building. We still call it a 40-story building. But part of as Andy mentioned, the bid crisis we encountered last September when the bids were over budget. Part of the redesign took 2 floors out of the building. So now it was a 39.5 that we called 40. Now it's 37.5. So it's a 38-story building. But the 2 floors that came out were 2 of the shorter, 2 of the typical floors up top. So renderings, I don't think, if I hadn't said it, nobody probably even ever know. And we still have the 800 rooms that the program needed for booking conventions, because we just eliminated some gigantic suites and put in traditional guest rooms. So that's how we were able to save some money and still satisfy the performer. Okay, so that's a little bit about the bricks and sticks. And then getting back to the Bob and Andy show about participation, inclusion, getting people involved in the project. We are preparing our next big bid packages. And bid package 3B is the rebid of that plumbing and mechanical and things that didn't go well in September. Okay, we bid through the redesign, put it back up for bid in March, and in mid-April, we should receive those bids. Bid package 4, the same timeline, that's our interiors, like studs and drywall, ceilings, and start to put the interior components in that building. So next slide, Taylor. And then the last thing to award on the work is the interior finishes and the site work. We're calling that bid package 5. And then after the dust settles from what we just mentioned on that first round of bidding, then by midsummer, we've taken bids on finishes. That's tile, paint, carpet installation, bill work, and then the sidewalks and landscaping. That's all kind of part of the end of the bond. So we're actively promoting the size of these bid packages, timing of these bid packages, the content of these bid packages, the participation opportunities of these bid packages for primarily bid package 5 right now, bid package 3B and 4 right now. And people are coming already to our events that are interested in that later down the road bid package. So word is getting out, they're coming to learn about the project as early as Next slide. I think this was hit on a little bit in our Andy's talking points, but once we kicked off this thing and knew it was a real job, we brought Barbara in. Barbara and I worked together on a couple of projects and always had a great outcome and great relationship. So when I called her, she said, Bill, I'm trying to retire. And I said, well, you can't for 3 more years. We talked about that 2 or 3 times, and then she said, okay. So that was great to put the band back together. And Barbara and Haley coordinated and orchestrated with all your districts so far 53 specific targeted outreach events. And we've got to brag about this one too a little bit, because OMWED's plan for how many outreach events you need to have on a project didn't anticipate a $500 million deal. It says projects under 75 million have to have 1, projects over 75 million have to have 6. So I said, David, does that mean we have to have 6? And I said, or is that 6 per 75 million? Well, 6 per 75 million is like 30-something. We've done 53 and we're not done. So he showed me all these stats, like there's a direct correlation in success between the number of events, the effort, and so on and so on. So we just said, Barbara kind of orchestrated, we're going to touch every district at least once. We're going to hit specific districts, where there's high concentration of XPE-owned businesses, and we're going to do events not just at Allstate, where hey, come hear about the project. We called in firms who only do trucking. We called in only women business firms. We called in only veteran business-owned firms. So we targeted certain markets where we knew there was coverage. And, it is a challenge. Everybody is busy with all this other work. So the next step is not only have we told about the project, why should you bid this project instead of all these other things Andy and Dan talked about, right? So there's only so much you can do on a public bid for the firms bidding to make it a sweeter job than the other one, because, unfortunately it has pretty high liquidated damages, and there's some penalties and there's some procurement things that they have to abide by in a public statute. But we can make it enticing for the workforce. So the CID was able, because of their proximity, able to accommodate free parking for the construction workers. Well, that's huge, because in this market, the bidding subs, used to 10 years ago, it was like, yeah, we've got a job downtown, if you want to work on it, hey, you got to pay your own parking. You say that to 400 people. But they work there, because it's just part of the cost of working downtown. But now, the guys can go to Kokomo, and they go to all these other places where they don't have to park and spend $30 a day out of their construction worker's salary. So Andy making the CID parking lot available for free parking is huge to the workforce. Now these subcontractors who were afraid of bidding this job, there's one more reason to bid this job, right? I don't have to carry the cost of parking to sweeten the deal, because all these other jobs are competing for the workers, not just the firms that we've been soliciting to. So we've done that. We're trying some food truck fun stuff. We're doing better restrooms than construction plastic porta-johns, like the state fair type semi-truck bathrooms, and things that make this a job where the guys want to work, therefore people are less afraid to bid because they know they can get workers to come here. So, set the bar, thinking outside the box, being creative, however you want to call it, everything we can think of. And every time somebody has an idea, we'll take the 25 ideas that come out of this meeting. We'll either say, that's great, we'll incorporate it, or we can say it's already incorporated. But if you think of something creative, garbage out, we're all ears. This is, like Bob was saying, we're all in this boat together. We don't want anybody to drown. Okay, so kind of rambled on there, but where are we today? So all this work and efforts has to pay off and do something, has to mean something. So what's it mean? Well, it doesn't mean much yet because we're only 4% complete. And that 4% complete is mostly burning off that pre-existing kite work that Andy talked about when it was a private contract, and now you guys have inherited it all. But so in a private contract, there were no minority diversity, no minority contracting or workforce goals. So we could have just said, hey, we're starting at 0. So we'd have an $18 million hole in our plan, right? But we said, let's try and fill as much diversity, opportunities within that non-required bucket as well, just to make sure that we're not, diluting our efforts so bad. So what we've done to date so far is 18.7 million gets us up through that demolition. And then within that 18.7, we have today to order 15.5% to minority, women, disabled, and veteran-owned companies. So with a goal of 27 collectively, a requirement of 0, we're at 15.5 starting out. So I think we're probably positioned good. We're going forward. If we could do this where there was a 0 goal, there was 0 requirement, there's a goal, 0 requirement, we could do this, where there is more time and more opportunity. Hopefully we can have a really strong showing as we get further along than 4% complete. And so these bid packages, one more thing, these bid packages that we did in April will be the first revealing of numbers resulting from these efforts, right? Because this is where these will be the bids that contain the fruits of all this effort. On the workforce, that was also kicking off pretty good. We started tracking that. The goals on this are minorities, with the city goals, are minorities 15%, women 8%, and Marion County residents working on the job at 30%. So we're off to a pretty good start. We're only at 187 people have physically worked on the job so far. But this will end up around 8,000 by the time we complete it. So that's people coming through, whether they work there for a day or work there for 6 months, depending on their craft and their need on the site. Every person that comes on the job, they get a safety orientation, they go through the deal, we track their hours and their participation on the job, and that's where we are so far. Okay. This has been asked a little bit, so I just put the slide up here just to remind myself to mention it. So Bob says, we don't just like, hey, we hear and we let them roll over when they say we call all these guys and nobody can bid. So if a subcontractor on their bid falls short of the 15, 8, 3, and 1 participation goals, there's a set of checks and balances. Number one, Barbara's all over them to figure out, why. And did they come to all these meetings, and did they call all the right people, and did they advertise on their own that they're looking for subcontractors, not just counting on us. So if a contractor submits, they couldn't get there, so they choose to submit XDE, good faith effort paperwork. There's a program in place that documents, did they do everything that they physically could? So before they get a contract, if they come up short, there's a vetting process. And David's office has assembled a score sheet that if you do everything on the sheet, you get 135 points. So the standard is if you go through this list, you have to score 70 on this sheet. If you score 70 on this sheet, OMWBD acknowledges that you completed a robust good faith effort program. So that's a check and balance kind of thing that we have implemented and are following. So when if people in this next bidding round say, we called everybody and they're all working, in Lebanon. So that's a program that we're trying to avoid, problem avoidance.
Couple questions. I don't want to get too far with the presentation without my questions, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Do you guys do any polling of your XPE vendors, XPE participants after the fact?
Yes, so we do as the prime contractor is awarded the job, he gives us an LOI, letter of intent, is what his XPE plan is going to look like. Barbara's office vets that initially, right off, okay? Does it meet all the standards? Are the firms you listed certified for the things they say they're going to be doing? We work with Fahad, Jolie, David's office, and Barbara. So they vet those LOIs. Then, as that contract gets to 25%, 50%, 75%, 100%, before the contractor's paid to each of those milestones, are they doing everything they said they're going to do? And it's not just paperwork checks, it's physical interviews with all those overture steps.
That's vetting the firms. What about the firms vetting you? Do your report as you interact with them?
I think our one-on-one interviews at those milestones goes both ways. Anything else we can do, you need of us.
I like to see. I'm not sure if this is a project to start this, but I like to see us take it more seriously. What the firms that are working with the companies that we have managing these projects, what they're saying about these companies, and basically giving us a report card. Are they doing the things that we expect? Because we're loose in our oversight and accountability because we've got so many unique components in this. But I'd love to see those XPE vendors, those XPE participants, to be able to share because I get probably with this road, I get a lot of feedback and it's not always good. So I'm mindful that to be an important component. Like, and these guys are A-rated as they look at XPE participation.
Well, so we've got a few A+ rated letters written to us or written to the city that don't get the circulation that the squeaky wheel gets, right? So certainly we're getting feedback both ways right now.
One of the things, Bill, that we have initiated is that immediately after we have those outreach meetings or those one-on-one with the prime contractors, we're issuing a survey to the minority women and veterans, asking them, what happened during your encounter with that crime, and why did you feel that you were unacceptable, and what can we do to assist you moving forward? So with that being said, we're looking at within the next 60 days initiating before we sign the dotted line workshop that will assist them with that.
That's awesome, but is the question on there, what struggles are you facing to achieve the percentage of crime? That's a big question.
Yes.
Are you struggling achieving the percentage? What struggles are you facing achieving the percentage of crime?
Insurance, your collaborations because you're too small.
Yeah.
Some of those struggles that I'm being shared.
I think it's one of those things that goes in the category of a good idea. If we're not doing it, we will be doing it. So that's great.
And that's why I said this may not be the project for that, but I would love to see us be more intentional about that.
Absolutely.
Is somebody taking notes between what you just said and what I'm saying?
Yes.
It's both things, right? It's you guys are saying different things, but supplemental.
One of the things that we wanted to do to try to control this so it won't turn into a meeting, meeting minutes and all of that, is that I thought just a little bit ahead, and there are index cards on everybody's table, along with the pen. So please put your questions there. I will collect them and respond to you no later than Monday at Old Dark 30.
Okay. Thank you. Can I ask a quick on a similar topic? Is it 100 points total, like what is the max on here?
There's 135 total.
Okay, so 100.
Available.
So we're at F. Good faith effort is an F.
No.
Education.
So
How does right? So I'm trying to figure out how
this is the policy that OWBD.
Fahad can explain that just a little bit better. Fahad.
And I can get it later. I'll write it on the board. That's fine. Okay,
Fahad, so just give her the answer.
So on the good faith effort, 70 points is the minimum.
Right, but that's still less than 50%.
It is, but some of those steps are, if you miss any of those steps, you will not be able to get the 70.
Down low after.
Down low, yes.
Okay, thank you.
There are additional line items where some of them are follow-up with other questions. So if you're late on your good faith effort, you're not gonna make the 70. This is also part of city ordinance.
Well, and that's why I'm asking if that's something that we could look at changing from our aspect.
Well,
Because I feel like less than 50% does not pass my class, so.
Well, this is not pass fail, if
Good effort is not 50%, and so I guess that's what I'm.
you know, don't get hung up on the name of the program, because this is, there's a protocol that have to be with 15%, 8%, 3%, 1% collectively, 27. If you make that a hard pass fail, you cannot bid this job if you don't do this. No building in Indiana will have an elevator. Right, so if you submit a bid.
100% or anything,
Right.
yeah, absolutely.
So-
And I think Counselor Gray said the A rating, B rating, so maybe
Yeah.
that is something that we could go
Yeah.
to. So we can do more of that later, because they know we're not supposed to get into the teeth. But yeah, thank you.
Okay. And then, Councilman is going to miss this part, but as a follow-up, just one last point on this. We have already, for several select firms, made specific insurance requirements, lowered the threshold for some specific firms. We did some joint venturing for some specific firms to remove barriers that they encountered when they said, there's a barrier. When we heard there's a barrier, we went to work on it as a team, and we have removed those barriers and got participation in the job. So that was very specifically done for firms who had throughout these efforts identified a problem. So I think the team's working great towards that whole front. I think that's the end of the slides. So this is going to be Q&A slides. We're done. Any other final comments or questions before I turn it over to David for wrap up and Barbara to close?
Right before David, Robert Bain, want to come forward with some comments regarding veteran strategies.
I've had this sinking feeling all today that I'm fulfilling some sort of quota. I don't know if it's the Republican quota, or the side quota, or I don't really know. What I do know is I've had a lot of wonderful interactions with the folks here. I've been called an idiot by Councilmember Delaney's mother on television.
no, the wrong lady.
Then I go to jail and said, I've been lucky, sorry, I didn't know. Andy Mallon and I have had the same job, although 6 months apart. And I've worked with some of you in here. And I'm especially happy to make some more IPS connections, which I've done. And to see Councilor Gibson, you're a good man, and I'm glad you're back on the council. And the Arlington grad will not take my lunch money. That's correct. So one thing I want to say very quickly is to append to what was said at the very beginning. I was born here in 1967. I never went downtown as a kid except to see Dick the Bruiser. And AECOM has been a gigantic Hunt has been a gigantic partner in transforming the city and the downtown I knew as a kid to what we all experience today. It's absolutely amazing. Amazing. And I remember, this is the second or third time I've been involved with them. They're excellent about reaching out to veterans especially. I graduated from Allen High School in '86 and joined the Army in '87. And I can say that in every single meeting I've ever been in with AECOM Hunt, they have made it clear that these goals are not box checking. They're committed to mentoring. They're committed to make sure that the companies that do very well on previous projects do really well on subsequent projects and are part of the team. And I'm an example of that. This is also another opportunity where Indianapolis has to do things in a way that is not partisan and that is not painful. I want to point out to Councilor Brown, those of you who voted for the 2018 IPS referendum, which I was lucky enough to be the head of, we never ever would have made the ballot. We never ever would have won the referendum and helped those kids without Allie Brown. So, I don't know if there's any other veterans in here other than Admiral Bill Shrewsbury. Oh, that's right, Ron. I remember you were in the Army, so, or in the military. So please, if you have any veterans who you need to mentor, who need work, please send them my way. Obviously, it's a special crusade for us who wore the uniform. Please do not hesitate to reach out. And if you have some good stories you want to tell, because one of the things we want to do is we want to highlight some of these smaller companies, smaller entrepreneurs, and make sure they get the recognition they deserve in the local community. Thank you.
I'll be very brief. I'm Kobe Wright, Chief Legal Officer and Business Operations Director for the CID. So I work for Andy now. Pardon me. Personally, I'm glad to meet, I didn't get to meet Councilor Brown, but I grew up partially in New York District. I partially grew up in the Crucialjackson district. And I told Councilor Roberts that I recently moved into his district 7 months ago, and twice over the summer while I was cutting my new grass, his folks came by knocking on the door. And where I live, I thought, but sure enough, we're turning on a different one. So I'm glad to see all of you here. Briefly, my job, in addition to being the lawyer and running a couple of departments for Andy, is being a DDI executive. So another person I want to call your attention is, not only did Andy give me that new responsibility, but subsequent to that, he hired he created the position of the DEI manager. CRB's never had one, never was going to have one, in my opinion. And that's Jennifer Kilbrew, who's sitting in the back there, who greeted you on the way in. Bottom line, if you have questions, I mean, obviously the person to call is Andy J. Mallon. But if you can't reach him because he's doing 50,000 things, while I'm doing my 20,000 things, at the top of the list is this. So if you have a constituent that is a business owner or in any way that is in this project, my job was doing it right in the parking lot before I came in, is to take that call, figure out what I can do, be as much as an advocate for somebody who can actually do the work, and see how to get them through the door with money, and push it along, and come up with solutions where it may not be evident to anybody at the time. But figure something out, make it happen. So with that, thank you, and at your service.
Last but not least, David Fredericks. David, come and introduce yourself.
So I'm not gonna worry about the microphone. First of all, I want to thank ACOM for pulling this together. Thank all the counselors for taking out time from your busy schedules to come learn a little bit more about what the project is in right now. Thank CID, Powers and Sons, all of the folks that are involved in this project right now. So for our office, our goal is to be a support to ACOM and CID on this project, but to also be a conduit between them and you, the council. We know that you guys are getting those phone calls. You have those impromptu meetings at the grocery store with folks in your districts and things of that nature. Everyone wants to know where this project is at, what's going on, how can they get involved. So when you get those questions, when you meet those individuals, please send them to me. Let me talk with them, and then I will forward them to either Kobe at CIB or directly to Barbara and the folks at AECOM. Like I said, our goal is to try and make this the most inclusive project that the city's ever had. I think we've got a really good team of folks who are, I would say, who get it. And so now we just have to help each other to hit the goals that we want to hit, not only from the standpoint of the participation goals, but the goals of creating job opportunities, the goals of hopefully making some impacts long-term for some of these families and businesses. Just before I came here, myself and Councilor Graves were awarding our new vendor of the month for March. And young lady owns a business. Business has been, the last 3 owners have been women. It was one of the first women-owned businesses in the city. And so now she's got 2 daughters, and her oldest daughter, she's grooming her in the business and teaching her about it. And that's what we want to see happen out of this project, is for some of our businesses that are involved to be able to groom and teach their family members and folks underneath them through this project, so that they can be that next generation of diverse business owners that are living and doing business here in Indianapolis. So, like I said, we are ecstatic about this project. We know it's going to be a big lift for everybody. But my office, my team, Mohan, who's here with me today, we're committed to this, and we want to make sure that this project is everything that it can be, and that we make sure that we are representing your wishes, your desires on this project. So please, at any time, and I think most of you I've talked to have met, you have my number, my email. If you have any questions, concerns, reach back out to me, let me know. As Bill talked about earlier, I think as we get into April, May, some of these contracts and things will be bid out. We should start having some folks' signatures and things of that nature. So probably what we'll look at, and I'll talk with President Mosley, but probably sometime May, June, we may figure out a way, our time frame, if you guys so desire, to come back to maybe the full council and just sort of give a brief update in terms of this is what our efforts are looking like right now. Keep in mind, we probably won't be where we need to be. I think we'll be close, but we may not be, because there's going to be a lot of work still left to be done over the next 2.5 years. So, and there's going to be opportunities that will still be yet to be created, either to be identified to companies who still haven't been engaged. So this is going to be a marathon, not a sprint. And so we're going to work and continue to work on this, but at the same time, I want to make sure that you guys are being updated and kept in the loop, so that not only one, you know what's going on, but like I said, you'll be able to talk to those in your districts and let them know, hey, the project is still going, there's still opportunities. Reach out to AECOM and things of that nature. So we will, like I said, I'll have that conversation with him as well as with AECOM and the team, and we'll figure out what that may look like in the spring or early summer, just so we can keep you guys up to date. Because like I said, that was one of the commitments that we made when we came to you guys about this project back almost around the same time last year, like last April or May. So we're committed to that, and just looking forward to it. So once again, thank you guys for coming out today. I appreciate it. Thank you, Barbara, AECOM, and Bill, for pulling this together, and let's do this again. So thank you guys.
So I was going to turn you loose and say thank you for coming, but there's one thing I want to say before I do that. That slide that showed the workforce participation, I'm really proud of that slide. I want to talk about it again. Don't let the suit tie fool you. I'm a construction worker. Maybe this proved that. In your districts, I don't know how many business owners have a XPE certified firm that live in your district, but I know that everybody in your district is an employee potentially, right? And there's a huge opportunity for workers, not just the XPE firms, but all these jobs we've been talking about, and all these other, I know the trade unions and even the open shop firms, everybody's competing for talent. And that is why the subs are so selective right now, and only bidding the sweetheart jobs, and because the workforce, right? So this job can be a great springboard to a very comfortable, lucrative career for people in the building trades. And we want to talk to people in your districts who are job seekers and second career people, job entry people. So we don't want this to only be focused on XP opportunity. Like I said, 8,000 people will work, ultimately 8,000 different individuals are expected to work on this job that our manpower curve forecast. We're only at 187 right now, right? So that's where I think huge opportunities here. I just want you, if you could, please take that back to your districts. Try and figure out how to spin that into something you can get back with us on. So thank you again for your participation. I can see a hand up. So
How much does a plumber make right now?
$60 an hour.
Like electricians, plumbers, like, these are real serious jobs that you don't, like, you don't need a college education to make hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, and in the old days, you know, an electrician had to complete 4 years of school before apprenticeship before he's at scale. They're fast tracking that. You know, a guy can make real money on day one in the apprenticeship program. So, all right, thanks again, everybody. Appreciate your time.
$60 an hour.
This concludes our lunch and learn today. I just want to say thank you all for coming. We really appreciate coming out here and learning about this project. There are to-go plates. You can take food. But I would like to say a special thank you to the Julevics and their syndicate. She did a wonderful job.
I got two. This is it.